Happy Thursday afternoon, everybody. You're listening to the 956 Drive Home. I am the infamous Zach Cantu, along with the living legend Davis Rankin. Happy to have you here as usual, and we are happy to see you coming up on Friday, joining us for some Houston Astros baseball. That's right, your world champion Houston Astros are going to be back home, Minute Maid Park, against the Rangers for a series that'll last the weekend, and that one is going to be a banger, I am sure. Astros baseball made possible by F&T Valley Motorsports, Hess Air, and Riverside Development Services. There's been a lot of talk about TikTok and social media in general, about its effect on mental health, and what are they doing with your data, and what's TikTok really doing with your data overseas, and how intertwined is it with the Chinese Communist Party? Well, we've got somebody happy to have Samuel Mangold-Lenett joining us. He's got an article out at the Federalist that says that the Restrict Act, which is out as a way to kind of restrict TikTok, won't successfully ban it, but he's got the answer to the question here. So first off, welcome to the show. Appreciate you being here. But for those that haven't been following the Restrict Act and how it would affect TikTok, what is it?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, guys. Happy Thursday. So, for those who don't know, the Restrict Act is it was introduced by Senator Mark Warner, a Democrat from Virginia, and the Restrict Act is not the TikTok ban we were told it would be. What it actually does is it expands the federal government's ability to, as the name says, restrict foreign adversaries from further encroaching on U.S. digital security and digital privacy. The issue is that the language in the bill is so vague and so generic that the unelected officials who are emboldened by it can really label anything a foreign adversary. There's no specific stipulations as to who is a foreign adversary. It's really a matter of who the Secretary of Commerce and the Director of National Intelligence, along with the intelligence apparatus, want to deem foreign adversaries. And that has serious implications for the digital security and privacy rights of the American public.
Can you give us an example? Because foreign sounds pretty obvious that it's not like from here, but what do you mean by that?
Well, that's part of the issue. Is the bill just says that they have the ability to label. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but
right.
The bill stipulates that foreign adversaries and covered transactions are the issues at hand, and the Secretary of Commerce with the Director of National Intelligence are get these great new powers through the Restrict Act to define who the foreign adversaries are, and identify specific behaviors and specific actions they're doing, and then work with the intelligence apparatus and potentially Congress and the executive branch to slap punitive actions upon them. That could, if it is a tech company, but let's say it is TikTok, because there's nothing in the bill explicitly naming TikTok or its parent company, ByteDance. But if they choose to take action against TikTok, the Restrict Act could coerce ByteDance potentially to divest from TikTok, which would create an environment where American investors could then purchase the company. But if it's, say, a mom and pop startup, as I'm not sure how many mom and pop tech startups there are these days, but
Very true.
Let's say there is one. There could be one that potentially uses the wrong pronouns for a transgendered individual. That could, depending on who is in the decision-making chair, they might slap this company with the foreign adversary label if they might have some overseas investors, thus labeling this startup company a foreign adversary, and therefore they incur the wrath of the federal government.
I see what you're getting at now. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Samuel Mangold-Lenett is a writer for the Federalist. He's got an article out right now. The Weak Restrict Act won't successfully ban TikTok, but one of its alternatives will. Before we get to the alternative, Davis Rankin, my co-host, has a question for you.
Yeah. Do you guys at the Federalist want, do you believe that TikTok this is a crude thing, is sort of an arm of the Chinese Communist Party, which is in control of the government there? That it may not be listed on the, the who works for who kind of thing, but they report that they're a functional arm of the government. Y'all think that?
Well, I can't really, I don't really want to speak for my
You don't have to. No, you don't.
nature.
I excuse my co-host. I apologize for that.
Oh,
but
don't excuse me.
it should be obvious he does not speak for everybody at the Federalist, Davey. That's what I'm getting
That's
at.
why I was asking. You can say, no, those knuckleheads
Right.
don't think like I do.
But what I can say for sure is that, like basically every company, not basically, but the fact of the matter is every company in China is incumbent. They have to answer to the Chinese Communist Party. And in particular, tech companies and major corporations have party members on their boards. That is a major stipulation, a major requirement of doing business in China. So the fact of the matter is ByteDance and TikTok are arms of the Chinese Communist Party. They might not, be fully integrated with the party apparatus, but they are integrated and they have to work with the CCP. It's just a fact. They have to. They can't get around that. There are, of course, other issues with, how does that affect us here with the backdoor way they're stealing our data? What are the national security breaches with, it being on the phones of bureaucrats, diplomats, etc. It's really a very scary issue that should have been addressed day one. Frankly, I'm of the mentality that China is our number one global adversary, and any software they're trying to put on U.S. markets ought to be either extremely scrutinized or frankly just not permitted, because we can deduce that they're going to use it for malicious purposes. I think that's pretty obvious, and it should have been obvious day one.
Joining us on 710 KURV is Samuel Mangold-Lenett. He is with the Federalist. He's a staff editor over there, and we're talking about the Restrict Act. Now, you mentioned that there's an alternative out there that you would prefer over the Restrict Act because the Restrict Act is way too general and vague and broad. What's your solution?
Yeah, so there are currently two alternatives I favor. Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri has a bill that he introduced this past winter. Basically what it does is it explicitly bans TikTok and its parent company ByteDance. It gives the president emergency powers to do that on day one after the bill is passed. And it also requires the intelligence apparatus to keep tabs on TikTok and ByteDance and inform Congress, our elected representatives, of the ongoing data breach, because just banning TikTok isn't going to resolve the issue. There's still a hole in the dam we have to patch, and it's going to take a lot of time. Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida, introduced a bill in February that's similar to Senator Hawley's, but it's not quite as lethal, for lack of a better term. It does ban TikTok explicitly, but it also focuses more on foreign tech companies and foreign adversaries, less so. It's less nuclear on TikTok and ByteDance. I think wedding these two bills together, take the intelligence reporting aspect of Hawley's and the very strict approach to TikTok and ByteDance, and then Rubio's aspect of casting a broader net of foreign adversaries writ large. I think those two together would have a really solid approach to solving this issue, even though we're pretty in the late stages of the game right now.
TikTok would be the prime suspect, the prime target on a bill like this. You wouldn't happen to know of any other foreign-based apps that Americans are currently using? I'm sure TikTok is the biggest one, but anything in a similar situation that could get swept away in the big net of all this?
I'm drawing a blank right now. I'm sure there are others. I'm sure that the Cuban government probably doesn't have a major presence on the Apple App Store, but there is I'm willing to wager that there is probably some form of nefarious presence. The best odds are that it's just various forms of Chinese software and foreign investors working through other entities to get software onto the market. It's not very likely that North Korea has games on the app stores or things like that. But
oh no, actually you're right. No. You bring up a good point. It's not just TikTok. There's plenty of games that the parent company is from China that more than likely would get included with all this, like real popular mobile games and things like that. No, you're absolutely right about that. I'm sorry, Davis, you have one more question for our guest here.
Well, I was going to ask if we know if there are Russian apps, anything tied to the Palestinian radical Palestinians, ISIS type groups. God love them, the cartels south of the border. Man, I don't know who would want one of these to gather the data that they can gather. Do we know of anybody else? We caught you flat-footed. I agree.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So the Restrict Act is too broad, and the two alternatives that you said were from who?
We're from Senator Hawley from Missouri and Senator Rubio from Florida.
And for the future, you said this is kind of late in the game, and it's probably going to be the Restrict Act that's going to be put into place of all this. Are we going to see? And I'm going to be honest with you, Sam. I've been trying so hard not to reference the Patriot Act in all of this, because that was a lot of the criticism for the Patriot Act, because it was, hey, it's the Patriot Act. You're not a patriot unless you're for this thing. So are we not for restricting China if we're not in favor of the Restrict Act here?
Personally, I think we need to take a much more. I'm of the mentality we should have taken a much more. I don't want to say aggressive, but
tougher
a more
approach.
Restrictive approach to China, many years ago. I don't like comparing this to the Patriot Act personally, but we do need to act on TikTok. It's way overdue. I said, this should have been a day one thing. I think it should have been apparent that our greatest global adversary is going to act nefariously. This is Red China. They're not trying to be our friend. They have an actual part of the People's Liberation Army that is solely focused on corporate espionage. They're very explicit about usurping us and humiliating us on the global stage. This should have been apparent.
I absolutely agree with you, Sam. Hey, appreciate your time here today. That's Samuel Mangold-Lenett from The Federalist joining us on News Talk 710 KURV.